In response to the novel coronavirus pandemic, IBM has added a COVID-19 track to its annual Call for Code Global Challenge. Now, on this episode of Tech Republic's Dynamic Developer, we're going to be talking about the competition, about the new COVID-19 track, and most importantly, about how you can get involved. I'm your host, Bill Detweiler, and I'm joined by Daniel Crook. Now, Daniel's not only a software engineer and developer advocate at IBM, he's also Chief Technology Officer of the IBM Code and Response Initiative and the Call for Code Global Challenge. So, Daniel, thanks for joining us.
Great. Thanks for having me, Bill.
So, before we talk about the COVID-19 track, let's talk a little bit about the Call for Code Global Challenge. What is it? How long has IBM been doing it? And what can people who participate in the challenge expect?
So the Call for Code Global Initiative is a 5-year program that IBM kicked off in 2018. So we've had 2 competitions already, and we're starting a 3rd one this year. And we're in partnership with the Linux Foundation, the United Nations, and lots of other partners. And what Call for Code is a yearly competition that asks developers to take on some of the world's greatest challenges. And IBM helps them do that by providing the technology that they can use in their solutions. And the output is sustainable, impactful open source applications.
And so in the past, you've looked at climate change. That's been the focus of the Call for Code challenge, right?
This year's competition scope that we announced in February was focused around climate change and some sub-themes below that: water sustainability, energy sustainability, and disaster resiliency.
And what makes, one of the things about the Call for Code challenge and the global initiative that I find is really interesting is it's not like just maybe a regular competition where you have a winner and then they get a prize and then that's it. Talk a little bit about what the people who participate in the Call for Code challenge, get out of this right at the end.
So that is what sets Call for Code apart. And that's the idea that you're not just creating applications for the competition, but you're also getting the support to deploy those applications as open source projects through an IBM Service Core team and the Linux Foundation. So it's not just hacking around for a weekend, throwing some code up on GitHub, taking a prize and going home. What really we're trying to do is give people the right problems to solve, the right technology to solve it, and also the support to take those ideas and ensure they're actually deployed to address the problems.
And can you talk a little bit about some of the previous finalists, some of the previous winners? What are some of the problems that they've tackled?
So we've had 2 competitions so far: the 2018 winner, the 2019 winner. We have 3 more years, including this year. So 2018's winner, they were a set of developers from the New York area. What they created was a hardware and software solution, a mesh network that helped establish just about 1% connectivity after a natural disaster. And they do this by deploying what they call ducks. So these are small connected devices that communicate over LoRa, long-range radio, and they can be pre-deployed as permanent ducts connected to each other, or deployed immediately after a disaster. They're cheap devices that can be dropped by drone, by balloon, anything like that. They can be quickly deployed. And the goal is that they provide just enough of a network that you can get some basic text messages over the network. So basically what happens is any device connects to a Wi-Fi portal provided by the ducts, and it shows up as the captive portal you see on your phone when you join, for example, a coffee shop Wi-Fi or an airport Wi-Fi. It overrides that, so you don't install an app, and you can use that to send messages over the network. And it was inspired by Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. And so what happened is after the competition, we went to Puerto Rico 4 times to do successive deployment testing with them, connect them with public and private partners, including the University of Puerto Rico system. So that was the 2018 winner. We worked with them all through last year. We continue to work with them, and they brought their technology to the Linux Foundation. And folks can contribute to that right now.
And that was Project Owl, right?
Correct. That's Project Owl. And the project is the open source part of what they built. It's called the Cluster Duck Protocol. So if you go to the Linux Foundation, look for Code and Response, look for the Cluster Duck Protocol. We can share the link with them too. We'll have listening as well. And then last year's winner, so they were actually a team from Spain, from the Catalonia region near Barcelona. And what's interesting is they were a cross-functional team. So it included a firefighter, a nurse or an EMT, a project manager, a data scientist, and a full stack developer. And so by having their customer, as it were, embedded in their team, they were able to create something that was quickly able to be iterated on and was a very successful uh, project. And they continue to do testing. So what they do is they create an IoT device that attaches to a wildfire firefighter's uniform, and it gathers information about the environment. So smoke concentration, temperature, humidity, carbon monoxide. It emits that back to the IBM cloud, and it's displayed on a dashboard that shows the real-time status of, for example, 10 firefighters out in the field, and seeing if anybody's in immediate danger of being exposed, for example, to carbon monoxide for too long. That information can also be shared, analyzed over the network, over time, to see if someone has been exposed multiple times for too long to certain chemicals, helping them make better decisions about the health outcomes. So that's also a project we're working with. We did a field test with them with 10 firefighters in February in Barcelona during controlled burning. So it's a proactive burning of flammable forest area. So they tested it in the field, and actually they connected it and they extended how it's constantly worked by building on Project Owl technology. So it was kind of nice to see that the open source really deliver in that case as well. So I'm very excited. Those are both focused on natural disasters. We saw a lot of IoT and data science and analytics in there. So those are the type of applications that have been successful in last year's.
And you brought up something I think is really important, and I want to get to the COVID-19 track for this year because it's so important as well. But you talked about the winner from 2019, and you talked about sort of having a cross-functional team. As someone yourself who's a developer, a software engineer, before I was in tech journalism, I was in computer science and development myself. And so we were talking before the show a little bit about how important it is to have that kind of cross-functional team, or at least if you do, you can do some really interesting things, right? Having stakeholders on the team from the beginning, people who are going to be using the devices, people who are going to be using the service, to be able to sort of provide that input. Talk a little bit about how that works, or what you've seen through Call for Code with those types of teams.
Yeah, so it's amazing. When we first launched Call for Code, we assumed we could harness the world's 24 million developers by giving them technology to solve problems and also giving them the problem sets that are the most important things to address. So we did that by connecting them with folks from NGOs, from the United Nations, from the American Red Cross, other organizations. So we were pairing developers with basically experts. So we saw a lot of that in the first year and a lot of great applications. But just like with last year, we saw actually they were starting to merge, the firefighter being on the team. So it's just like with all software development, being agile, understanding what your end user actually needs, that you're not creating some technology and just throwing it at a problem. That's incredibly important. And that means you're going to have software that people can really consume, use, and immediately deploy. So it's super important to have that. And what we try to do also with the Code and Response program is for those winning teams, they may have a set of skills. Maybe they're less deep in certain areas, but they have broad experience. What we can do, just like we're doing with Prometeo, is supplement that with people that have additional skills. So teams that participate, they don't need to be software engineers with computer science degrees, PhDs in computer science. If they're self-taught developers like myself, coming in, maybe they have a background in political science like myself, you can bring a lot of skills to bear on the problem you're trying to solve. And know that if you win the competition, you're not on your own and suddenly thrown off the deep end to learn crazy deep data science. We've got tools to help you. We've got a way to bring you together with organizations that can help, as well as open source projects.
So I think that's so important. And let's talk about how that translates over into the new track you added in response to the novel coronavirus outbreak. So as part of this year's Call for Code challenge, you've added a COVID-19 track. Tell me a little bit about the track, what you're hoping to achieve with this, the 3 kits you've got.
We launched in February with the one climate change track with 3 sub themes underneath it. So water, energy, and disaster resiliency. So we've done that with COVID-19 as well. So we launched a parallel track that developers can look at. It's got 3 suggested subthemes below it. So around crisis communications, around remote learning, and community collaboration. And importantly, we're not asking folks to go develop vaccines or do deep data science and scientific topics. Those are other initiatives that are being well covered by other technology efforts. So really, we're looking at the social and business aspects, the impact of what COVID-19 is going to have on society. So helping people get information, handle excessive loads, requests for information. So if a store, for example, is on a very thin staff, can you use a bot or some sort of automated SMS system to answer frequently asked questions, such as, do you have senior hours this morning from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m.? Let technology kind of answer some of those questions on your behalf and focus on delivering what you can as the company to help. So we have the 2 parallel tracks, and applications submitted to one or both tracks will continue to be judged through the regular call for code timeline. So it goes from now through the end of July, with judging happening in the summer, awards happening in October, and full-scale deployment happening in 2021. But for the COVID track, naturally, because this is such a pressing problem, we've put together an accelerated timeline for those applications. So if developers can create things in the next 30 days and submit them by April 27th through the call for code submission process, we will judge those and announce winners on May 5th at the IBM Think virtual conference, raise awareness of those amazing applications, rally folks around them, and we will assemble a team from the IBM Service Corps to help start deploying them in mid-May. So we want to ensure that these are quality applications coming in. That's why the deadline is not next week, right? So we want to make sure people have time. They're building stuff maybe for other competitions. Those would be still eligible for this if they bring an application here that's been created since February 26th, which is the start of the call for code competition. It's got to be fresh code. It can depend on open source. But if they brought something, it's maybe they submitted to other competitions, that's great. As long as it's something you want to bring to the call for code program, you can get in by the April 27th deadline. Or even if they come in earlier, if there's some really promising ideas, we'll look at them and maybe we'll mentor those, how people can make them even better and resubmit them before the deadline. So there's both a long and a short timeline for this, but the end result is the same. We want solutions from teams that are innovative, that are able to solve the problem with technology in an appropriate way, and are something that can be a sustainable open source project to benefit humanity.
Knowing what you have seen with the other projects, Daniel, do you have any advice for folks that might be, thinking about ideas to submit for this track, for other tracks, for how to work together as a team, who to pull in? We talked about that a little earlier. I mean, what advice would you give to people who are looking at this and considering this right now, to how to submit something that's successful, to how to submit something that's going to, if not win, get noticed, how to have the best chance, also just to help? I mean, it's nice to win, but it's also, when you're dealing with something like this, it's nice to know that you're able to contribute to such, to a recovery, to help people deal with this kind of a crisis.
A couple of tips there. Don't think about the technology first. Think about the problem first, right? So identify and talk to people that are really being impacted by the crisis and find out what sort of technology solutions might help them get to a different place, from where they are now to a better situation. So don't just think, I'm going to apply blockchain to this, I'm going to apply IoT to something. Think about the end user, and if you can, embed maybe somebody who's going to have that feedback on your team, or at the least, talk to folks, do some design thinking, empathize with your end user, understand the types of issues they face, the priorities that they have, and try to work back from that into a technology solution. That's I think the best advice is, don't think tech first. I mean, think about the problem and then start to formulate the technology around it. And if you can embed that person on your team and iterate, it's much faster, it's going to be more effective. And another tip, also an important one, is related to the end user. When you're creating a solution, think about things that are already existing that you can build on. So we've seen a lot of coronavirus, COVID-19 APIs emerge, data sets emerge. There's tools that are in this ecosystem being rapidly developed. Do the research, understand what's out there, build on top of it, and make sure you're not reinventing the wheel, that you're not solving an already solved problem. If we look back at some of the solutions in earlier call for code competitions, people were creating dashboards, which are great, but creating a dashboard in a vacuum is not helpful if, for example, an incident commander has a ton of tools that they already work with. What's a way to integrate with those industry standard tools? What's a way to leverage the open standards, such as for emergency communications or certain radio bands, and learn from that, use those things. Don't just create stuff from scratch that already exists.
Well, Daniel, thanks for joining us. And where can people go to learn more about IBM's Call for Code Challenge and, most importantly, how they can get involved?
Callforcode.org is the best starting point. And that's not only for developers who want to take part, it's for people who want to learn about the competition rules, the judging, the guidelines. It's got the frequently asked questions, and it's got a link where you can register for the competition, get access to IBM technology and our IBM developer site. So they can register there. That's the place for all the rules and the judging. And if they are not a developer, maybe just want to support, if they work for an NGO, or support the overall effort, contribute their expertise, we also have a way to sign up supporters and sponsors and other sorts of folks who want to get involved as well.
And you can listen to more episodes of Dynamic Developer on your favorite podcast platform, or you can watch a video of each episode and read a transcript at Tech Republic.